A couple of weeks ago, my partner and I went on holiday to Barcelona, and on the first day I was told that I'd put some weight on. Now, that made sense because in the last year I've been doing my master's dissertation, my master's in psychotherapy, and sometimes the only way in the afternoon I could get my brain back to on the typewriter was to have a great big piece of chocolate cake with double thick cream. Now, although I didn't realize this, over the year I probably put on about a stone. So, when I was told this, I immediately knew what to do. Started running on towards the beach in the morning, only an apple for breakfast, more swimming, walking, doing lots of exercise, a small lunch, a roll, some chicken or some meat, lots of tomatoes, and then in the evening something like chicken or steak and a salad. And as a result of this, so really changing my diet, screening out anything that I shouldn't be eating, and doing a lot more exercise, within a couple of days the weight started to melt away, and less than 2 weeks later I can report that I've probably lost that entire stone. So that's one kind of overweight. That's overweight when there's nothing that's keeping you overweight. But I want to talk about the other kind of overweight. Now, food is very symbolic. We all know about ideas like comfort eating. But behind that concept, there is what I call the OEDM. That's the Overweight Eating Disorder Mechanism. So just as if you've watched my clips on underweight, just as there's an underweight mechanism, there is also an overweight mechanism. And just as the underweight mechanism works in terms of over movement, the overweight one works in terms of less movement. So one thing that my clients always relate to is when I talk about the concept of wallowing. Now, if you've got the second kind of overweight, so just to recap, the first kind of overweight was specific. It was because I was eating too much cake and I was immediately able to burn off that extra energy through the overweight. But the second type is when there is a mechanism involved. Now that mechanism is there for a reason. And if we look back to very early childhood development, we have that sense of the psyche needing to knit together so that we have a proper set of psychic defenses. Now, if that doesn't happen, so that in areas like a sense of confidence, a sense of lovability, a sense of self-worth, maybe some shame, all these kinds of issues tend to form holes in our psychic defenses. And just as with the underweight mechanism, the overweight mechanism activates in order to fill up these holes by making us want to eat more. Now, I know the difference between the two kinds of overweight because when I was young, I had the second kind. I grew up overweight and very unhappy, and I really thought that that voice that was telling me that I could never ever change. Other people could go on diets, but I couldn't. I thought that voice was me. But in fact, I realized afterwards that it's the OEDM, the voice of the overweight eating disorder mechanism. And so in my late teens, around 17, I started to diet and exercise, and I started to lose weight. And that showed me that even if you have the second kind of overweight, you can do something about it. And in the next little clip, I'm going to talk more about recovering from overweight.